just to check everyone's in the right place, this is about online gaming. It's not about holidays and flying around the world with EasyJet. I think that's in the other room. And yeah, it's not online gaming is not the sort of humanitarian side that we just heard from Oxfam. So get all those apologies out of the way and make sure everyone's in the right place. So I'm from Aqueduct, and we've been working with Betfred for a couple of years now. We've put in place a Sitecore implementation, and one of the key benefits that Betfred saw in Sitecore right from the outset was the ability to start to personalize the experience for users and be able to offer something that is relevant to each individual and has the sort of knock-on revenue, commercial elements attached to that. So we're on a journey with Betfred. What I'm going to take you through, coming back to the theme of the day, is around digital nirvana. So what is digital nirvana for Betfred.com? How will this be reached? Where are we now? What's the journey we're taking, and how can we learn from this? So hopefully this is going to be quite a practical session for anyone who's thinking about personalization for their brand. And what I'm going to share with you are a few tips and a few pointers to help you on that journey as well. So let's begin. I'll just give you a very quick overview of the Betfred business. The first betting shops for Betfred were opened in the 60s, and Betfred always had this philosophy of putting the customer first and giving that sort of dedicated customer experience, which is something that has been strong throughout the business ever since day one. Now there are over 1,300 betting shops on the high street, but a large online offering which has a number of different products in its suite. So you have sports betting, you've got casino and gaming, you've got live casino, poker, lottery, which is pretty big now, and bingo, and then virtual. Virtual is sort of, an example is with horse racing. You actually have a 3D rendition of horse races that never actually happen in real life, and people bet on that, and it's a huge business. And this is both online and mobile through Betfred's direct channels, but also affiliates, and there's a large affiliate network that Betfred operate. And interestingly, mobile now accounts for 40% of the overall digital revenue for Betfred, and this is growing all the time. Now this is really significant. This is transactional activity on mobile, not just people using their mobile for information. So you really see the role that mobile plays. And Betfred has approximately 3% share of it's around 2 billion now pounds online gaming market in the UK. So there are other players that have a larger share of that market, but what Betfred are doing and the way that they're growing is really interesting for anyone in that space. Outside of the UK, there's a lot of eyes on the US, opening up regulation at some point. South America and Asia are really being watched, and this sort of global audience for online gaming is being watched by all those in the industry. So the challenge for Betfred in this highly competitive space is, how do you stand out? How do you offer something that's different? And Sean Doherty, our key client at Betfred, said that with all these things being equal in the industry, customer service and anticipating the needs of customers, personalizing that experience, and being able to respond to market opportunities is their point of differentiation. And this is really key in that highly competitive market, that there is something that's different. And this is not just something that has come out of nowhere. It's really part of the values of the organization. Going back to that day when you go into the betting shop and they know who you are and what kind of interests you have, what you've done there before. So this really is the customer-centric philosophy of Betfred, and it really does focus on the customer. So that's where Betfred are trying to get to in terms of Nirvana. Now we have a plan with Betfred that is to take them on that journey. So the first thing is to understand why they're trying to personalize. A lot of people talk about personalization. Yeah, that's one of our goals. That's what we're going to do this year. Why? What are you trying to achieve? What is the actual business value of personalization? Are you trying to save money? Are you trying to grow acquisition? Are you trying to get higher value from customers, increase conversion? You know, there are specific business reasons to do it. So first of all, understand that. Then, what do you want to personalize? There's an awful lot that you can do with personalization. So where do you want to start with that? Looking at what data you have available already. Yes, you can collect more data, but the chances are that you already have quite a bit of information on your users. And then you have to look at the tools and the partners that you need to work with you to actually consolidate that data, to be able to offer personalization, to automate that, and to measure its impact. And a really important part of the Nirvana plan is actually to start small, to monitor, to review, and iterate. And if you set out looking for this grand plan of optimizing the experience for every individual based on all these different parameters all at once, you'll never achieve it. You have to think about this iteratively. So where are we in the process? We have the business case and the buy-in. At board level, there is buy-in for the opportunities that personalization offers. And in some cases, that's a first task that needs to happen. We know what we want to personalize and why we're doing it. We already have a wealth of data, and I'll show you some of that data that we have in a second. We have the right tools and partners in place. So as a Sitecore partner for Betfred, we are one of those, but we're not the only one. And I'll show you some of the other tools that are in place. And we have started to introduce simple personalization. So we are on that journey. We're not finished on the journey, and I would argue that you'd never be finished on the journey, but we've at least started it. So to give you an idea of some of the data that Betfred already knows about their customers, it really does range across a whole load of different categories. So you have transactional data. This is the core data around what people are spending, how often, and on what products. You then have demographics data about gender, age, and other details there. You have the on-site analytics, which are sort of general trends and activity across the site, but also down to individuals. And then you know what kind of devices they're using, what kind of browsers, whether they're using affiliates or they're going direct, and we know what kind of behaviors they have. So we have quite a lot of data already, and the challenge is what to do with that. I'll just show you an example now of one of the technologies that we have in place with Betfred called Ignition 1. And we've got a video here which hopefully will start playing in a second. So what this is demonstrating, these are all the different products in the columns that Betfred offers. And what we have are individual users represented by circles, and they are actually coming into the site at the top. They might be traversing across to different products, and as they proceed through certain conversion points, they'll come down further in this chart. And here is a line where they've actually registered, and these are all pre-registration users. Once they get past this line, they are in the CRM and they are monitored in a different way. So this is actually live tracking. It's a recorded version of a live tracking for visitors that come to betfred.com, and we are able to profile them and see what they're doing before they've even given any data up. And this pre-registration stage is so important to Betfred because it affects the conversion, and there's a lot more people coming to the site who aren't registered than there are who are regular users who are registered and come back a lot. So this audience is of particular interest. So another tool which is really important here is Sitecore, and that might be a reason why most of you are here. But Sitecore really helps in that mix of systems here for Betfred, because the digital marketing system, which enables Betfred to actually personalize the experience for individuals, really works well with Ignition One and other systems that we have in place. So I'll give you a few examples of what we're looking at. Going back to the presentation this morning, the keynote from Dietmar was around the laziness of users. And what you'll see here are 3 different columns which are taking data from users based on, the first 2 columns are implicit data. This is data that you can get from individuals without actually having to ask them anything, and you can get this information from them as long as they've accepted cookies and those kind of things. So, so this doesn't require people to actually do a lot of work. And the explicit data on the right-hand side, if you're using features like Facebook Connect, you're actually making it very easy for lazy people to actually submit that data as well. What you don't want to do is present people with a huge form that they have to fill out to give you data, because you'll lose so many people. So we don't do that. We look at the implicit data, and we look at where we can extract additional explicit data through the most effective ways. So the journey that we're taking, excuse me, we have a customer segmentation model which highlights customers based on the value that they are to the business. So if you have a new customer, they're typically represented by C here. A new customer will come in to betfred.com. We don't know much about them. We don't know whether they're going to spend a lot of money or whether they're going to go into the D segment, which are the lowest value customers. These are people who just look for the bonuses and the special offers, and they might come around once a year. They're not going to be huge value to you. So you want this new customer to not go in the D direction, but go up to B, where they're actually high value, longer lifetime customers. And then you've got A, which is the sort of cream of VIP customers who basically will be doing online gaming and betting as their life, and probably spending tens of thousands of pounds and sometimes winning that back. So there's a segmentation model here which helps in the journey for personalization, because we can identify not only the different sort of groups of customers by the products that they're using, but whether they're high value or low value in terms of their commitment and the revenue that Betfred's getting from them. So we've got a few different examples here of customers, and I'm going to start looking at the current customers, so represented by the 2 on the left here. One that's focused more on the sports side of things, and one that's focused on gaming. One thing that I'll just mention, and it's important for anyone doing personalization, is that nobody falls into a complete silo here. So yes, this is a sports customer on the left, but he might also do a bit of gaming, and you might get involved in some of the other products. So having someone completely siloed is just artificial, but it helps in the profiling of different users. So current customers, what we want to do with them is to actually increase the engagement that they're having, increase the times that they're coming back, the amount of money that they're spending, get them involved in other products, and start to understand a bit more about them so we can serve them more relevant messages. So we have this model which shows these two different example customers and their profiles, and it just starts to map out how their different interests are conveyed within the site and the information that we know about them. So we're building up these profiles in the background. Now, if we take Mike, for example, he's more focused on sports, and his favorite team here is Man City. So we're going to serve him up content that is related to Man City and bets that he might be able to do on upcoming games there. But we also know that from the activity he's done on the site, he's interested in some other sports. So he's looked at golf before. We'll push out golf promotions to him as well as that core product that he's interested in, and maybe poker and slots. So we're looking for those opportunities to not only serve him up what he's going to be looking for, but something that is related that could get him to actually increase the activity and the spend that he's having with Betfred. We've got Olivia here, who his primary interest is in gaming, and then secondary interest in sports. So what he's being served up when he comes to Betfred.com is promotion and new products around around gaming, and that's where that personalization offers a very different experience for him. One thing that's in place at the moment here is that the games that he's played before will automatically be surfaced at the beginning of the list, so that when he comes back, he can go back into that. Just very simple personalization, but it means that he doesn't have to look around and get lost looking for the products that he's used before. So new customers are a bit different, and I mentioned before the importance of new customers to Betfred. The conversions are critical because you can get people who come onto the site. They typically come onto the site a few times before they actually register. They might look around on different products, and they might get to the site through different means, through searches, excuse me, through searches and, sorry, is there any water anywhere? Yeah. They'll get to the site in different ways, and what we're building up all the time that they're coming to the site is an interest profile. Thank you. An interest profile for them. And to give you an example here, this is someone who will, someone who will come to the site through a Google search, and they're looking for Kong slot in this case, and what's served up is something that really directly appeals to what they're searching for. So it's very simple personalization, but it means that their experience with Betfred.com, remember, these are people who haven't registered, they haven't given any information, we don't really know that much about them as an individual, but we're able to serve them up something relevant. And this personalization to someone who isn't registered is so critical. The conversion into a new customer is dramatically increased by offering some sort of personalization at this point in the journey. So this is again using Ignition 1 that we talked about earlier. And users who have come along to the site a few times, they haven't registered yet, but they come back to a section that they've been to before. What we can actually do is push out to that user some dynamic promotion that says, here's an offer. Here is something that you can go through to and register, and we'll give you £5 off your first bet. And this directly appeals to that user, not just as a generic promotion, but as something that's based on the fact that we know they're interested in that, they've been to it a couple of times, but they haven't registered yet. So this dynamic personalization, all for people who haven't registered yet, is really helping to transform the conversion rates and ultimately grow that 3% of the market and be that differentiator for Betfred once we get them into the customer loop. So I'll give you a bit more of an example of how this looks. So you have a first-time visitor who will come to the site. They'll look at the lottery page, and we'll get a sense that they're interested in lottery. Okay, simple. And then they go to the bingo page, and we start to build up a deeper story about what their interests are. And then they go back to the lottery page, and we know that they've actually got more interest perhaps on lottery if they keep coming back to that page. It's not just about going to a page once, it's about repeatedly coming back to something. We know that when people are researching something that they're going to invest in or something they're going to buy, they come back to it a few times. A lot of the time, you don't notice that. You can't track it. With Sitecore and the tools that we have in place for Betfred, we know how many times people have been back there. We know if they've come back on a few occasions, or if they come back just on a Saturday evening. You know, we can track all that and interpret something from it. So we start to push out a lottery promotion to this user and try and get them into registering, and ultimately get them through this funnel to get them into a customer. So a lot of the focus, as I've been describing, is about that new user who hasn't registered yet, and that's really where we see the initial value of a lot of the personalization. So with DMS, with Sitecore, can I just have a show of hands who's actually using DMS or has looked at it and wants to use it? I mean, there's some interest, yeah. I mean, I think, you know, the journey that we're taking our clients on is an ongoing journey. It's cyclical. We help them to identify the goals that they're trying to achieve in a number of different iterations. So we start with one iteration. What are you trying to achieve in here? Then we set things up technically to make sure that the tracking is in place and everything's set to actually get the information that we need. Then we configure the actual tools and DMS to make sure we're able to profile in the right way. Then we test that, and then we configure personalization after that. So you first have to profile, and then you can start to personalize. And then you monitor that output and build up a second iteration of goals. So it's an ongoing process, and it's not like doing a build of a CMS. You know, introducing personalization is an iterative process that is more consultative and needs more monitoring of the data to get exactly right. So the advice that I would give anyone who's looking to go down this road is to look at the high-value, low-complexity personalization. What is it that's going to have a big impact to your business through personalization? and those things specifically that aren't going to take you a long time to achieve. Because once you can start to demonstrate some business benefit in a low-cost, low time frame, you're able to actually make the case for deeper engagement, deeper personalization. So here's a list. I'm not going to go through them. A list of some of the high-value, low-complexity personalization features that we have implemented or are in the process of implementing for Betfred.com. So what can you learn from this process? The internal buy-in and the understanding is a prerequisite for success. With Betfred, we have got to that stage already, and we've got that buy-in. But I know it takes a long time, in some cases, to actually make the case to the business that investing in personalization and getting real understanding of your customers to be able to serve them something relevant is a battle sometimes. So getting that buy-in and working with your agencies or anyone around you who can help to actually make sure that you've got that buy-in. Then you need to know what it is you're trying to achieve, your strategy, and how to get there. So the strategy and the roadmap sounds obvious, but you do need that. You can't just say, yeah, we're doing personalization. The technology platform, and I'd say platforms, and the partners that you need in place are going to be key to getting the right results there. Sitecore is a big part of that. I would argue that Sitecore is best when it works with a number of other products as well. And actually, every business has already got a whole load of products in place. So how can Sitecore work with those products to get the best results? And it doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to wake up in the morning and have personalized experience for every individual user to your website. So you need to do a lot of work behind the scenes to understand your customers, to then be able to serve something up to them. So in creating your plan, look at the data that you have. You're probably going to have data from all sorts of different sources, and integrating that and understanding what that means is going to be a big first step that you need to do before you can do a lot of personalization. Then start with those few low complexity, high value scenarios that I showed a few examples of for Betfred. Monitor and review that impact, and then iterate. And it may be that you start out not integrating data from different sources because that's actually too difficult. But ultimately, you will need to do that because you'll not be joining up information that you have about a customer to be able to serve something relevant to them. And that, going back to, again, an example from this morning about the CAS school with the alumni versus the undergraduate approach, taking very different models to different users. So integrating that data at some point is going to be important. All right, thank you very much. I just wanted to give my details, and also Sean Doherty, who is our client at Betfred, who's also happy to take spam emails from anyone who wants to send them. And you can follow me on Jon Reay, J-R-E-A-Y, on Twitter. Thank you.